That
All right, cool. Thanks. Sorry. Um, the point of view that I'm Zucky. Uh, I'm on the board of Bootstrap. I've been a participant in the ecosystem for basically a decade. And I'm going to sort of lay out an argument here that I have made for across many different ecosystems that I contribute to. Um, that I would say equally applies to the Zcash ecosystem. All right, so here's basically the uh, sort of core of the argument. Um, okay, so I just like picked this image kind of at random, but for like probably the last 10 years, um, this kind of ecosystem page has been the sort of indicator of, hey, like my blockchain project is doing well. Lots of different logos, lots of different teams. Just pick this thing at random. Um, and basically, this is like how you indicated to the market um, uh, that you were building a system that the blockchain protocol that you built had an ecosystem around it, was being adopted by the market, etc. Um, I think it's become pretty clear um, that basically blockchains fall into two categories. So there's blockchains that compete as technology platforms, and there's blockchains that compete as like cult assets. Um, so you have this, and you sort of have to pick um, uh, uh, which of these things that you are as an ecosystem, what space you're competing in. Um, and if you are competing as a technology platform, um, which, you know, currently it's not like Zcash is neither succeeding as a technology platform nor as a cult asset. Um, there's sort of two different roadmaps. I'm sort of assuming for the uh, purposes of this discussion that like the direction that people want to go is building a technology platform. Um, but there are arguments in favor of going the other direction. Certainly, based on market caps today, like all the technology platform assets. So there's an argument for going the other way. But let's leave that. When you're building a technology platform, and you're like, hey, our goal is we like have all of these different logos, like is basically a two-sided marketplace between asset issuers and asset users. Um, so what we've seen, and like this is an example from Cosmos about why this sort of many builder, multiple ecosystems builds a thing, like constructs an ecosystem that like doesn't meet the needs of asset users and asset issuers. So Cosmos. So we built this thing. Um, or a company in the Cosmos ecosystem built this thing, go.skip.build. So Cosmos's like main contribution is we built a framework for building blockchains, which allowed people to issue assets. We built an interoperability framework called IBC that allowed those assets to interoperate with each other. Um, and then we had this like you can make another ecosystem map with like thousands of logos on it of different projects. Basically, it was a thing that was like hard, extremely hard to use. So we built this thing that was like or Skip built this thing that was go from uh, like any asset on any chain, sort of coordinated around the Cosmos ecosystem, integrating many building protocols. Like he seems to put out roughly 1,000 podcasts a week. Um, uh, Jason puts out this tweet this over the weekend. What's the best way to bridge Ethereum to Cosmos? It doesn't look like you have this like incredibly high context person who like the like user flow that will get him what he wants, which is he wants to interact with an asset in Cosmos, and he's having a terrible experience. And the product exists. Like if you look down here, like I tweeted go.skip.build at him, um, uh, and it like immediately solved this problem. But you can't onboard users. We aren't like the user flow on sort of both sides of this technology platform buildings. It's like completely illegible because, and like I will argue that the problem with this is um, the lack of vertical integration. So um, traditionally, we built the system as we built blockchains as like a set of puzzle pieces. We the protocol R&D gets represented as a full node, as a piece of open source software, but there's in general like no user interface to this system. There's no solutions engineering team. There's no, hey, like how do we actually go out and solve a problem for like a specific partner. Independent businesses get spun up. And I would basically argue that like if across all of blockchain for the last decade, none of this has ever actually worked. Um, we've not really been able to like deliver complete solutions that users want. Um, the primary motivation though for doing this was regulatory. So the thesis of like, what was decentralization, what was adequate in a world where like no rules were being written in the United States, was that like, okay, well, if you do this sort of subtractive, fragmented, non-integrative approach, you have a strong argument for having a decentralized ecosystem. Um, but the regulatory landscape is changing. Um, the to actually write some rules for the United States. We will get to hopefully within this year a actual definition of what aspects of decentralization are important, and what aspects of decentralization should be. So it kind of gets to this. So Jill has this tweet. This is the pinned tweet on the top of Jill's Twitter, which is the state of interop, which is really the state of Ethereum. We're all building the same product. So you know, I think in ecosystems that have lots and lots of teams, you are fine, like Ethereum, Solana, etc. You find yourself in this situation where what the user journey actually interacts with, like I want to do something in your ecosystem, um, is requires the core like requires touching, and uh, this gets you to this like sort of place where it's really hard to sort of finally integrate all these pieces into a single product. There's lots of group chats and calls and coordination exercises, but each one is also trying to accrue value to their own token across this process. Um, and it is an incredibly challenging environment to build in, and it's an incredibly challenging environment. And I think like one of the biggest things that I would take away from Denver, from where blockchains are in 2025, is that we like frankly all need to be building a much more compelling product that seems much more relevant to the user. We're competing in a very noisy environment. The attention space is being really occupied in the minds of ordinary consumers by AI, and we have to respond to that. So basically, you know, the user journey is all one product. It's wallets, it's block explorers, it's core protocol features, it's the programming interfaces that people consume, especially asset issuers consume. It's on and off ramps. It's DeFi. This is all one product. Now, uh, it's pretty clear that in today's blockchain world, um, this is an interaction between many different infrastructure providers to provide this product, but makes everything else easier. You know, you may, so like if you were to sort of take a coin company builds a lot of the core protocol features. They also have a team that's building a wallet. Um, the programming interfaces are sort of split between Zcash Foundation and ECC. On and off ramps, we've seen some progress with integrating those into Zashi. And then Near has, through Near Intense, has brought DeFi at some significant scale to the Zcash ecosystem, probably like for the first time. But like all of these things are the pebbles. And, if any blockchain ecosystem is to survive, we have to like massively reduce these frictions. Um, one of the problems that seems to like recur over and over again um, in the blockchain space is the perils of shallow exploration of the product space. Um, One of the things that you see, I mean, you see this in Cosmos, you see this in Ethereum, you see this in Near, you see this in Solana as challenges. Um, though I would argue probably Solana is doing the best job of having avoided this. Is that just like more is better and more will enable more parallel experiments. Um, the challenge with the parallel experiment approach is that it actually tends to incentivize, especially if there's just sort of like a finite short-lived funding stream. There's a tendency to want to do a little bit of everything, kind of explore lots of things in like a fairly shallow way, uh, uh, without the without like really committing to like a single product vision, a single solution, a single thing that like makes that solves like a specific user problem, um, and instead kind of dabble in everything. And you sort of see just do a couple more slides and then we'll get to sort of discussing the questions. Um, so the benefits of deeper integration are uh, integrating products to create deeper, more complete user experiences.